let's go one by one through the 3 different pieces on the program, if that's okay. Starting with Terry Riley. It's his 80th birthday year, and you have put together a festival in his honor in June. There are some brochures for people for the festival. Terry Riley, pioneering composer. I want to ask you about when you first started working with him. He wasn't writing notated music, is that right? And so how did you persuade him to start writing things down?
Well,
and what year was that?
That was, we met in 1979, and Terry started writing for us in that year, and we worked together in 1980 for the first time. And the way it happened was, as you say, he was fully involved in improvising and studying North Indian raga music, and very happy with the way his work was going. And but one day we met over at Mills College, and meeting him for the first time was, well, you've met Terry, so you know the feeling. It's a wonderful feeling to meet Terry Riley.
The pianist Tom Constantin, who was the first pianist in the Grateful Dead, says, when you spend any time around Terry Riley, your soul will get a tan.
That's great. That's a great way of saying it. For me, what happened is that I shook hands and we started talking, and it felt to me like I'd met Joseph Haydn. That's what it felt like to me, like the guy that started writing string quartets. He was apparently a very friendly person, very collaborative, Haydn that is, and kind of a joyful person to be around. And that's what it felt like with Terry. And immediately I just thought, this guy's got to write quartet music. And I'd heard In C and Rainbow and Curved Air. And then meeting him, I just wanted something like the feeling that I had and that all of us had. I just wanted that in music. And so it was, it was a little, he was going this way, and I wanted him to go this way. And so, he'll tell you the same thing. He got letters and phone calls from me and all sorts of things that, trying to convince him that really he needed to write string quartet music because I thought he was a quartet composer.
Was there any resistance?
There wasn't really resistance. He just didn't think he could do it. And then he started writing, and then he called me one day and he said, the real problem I'm having is my thumb hurts because I haven't been writing for so many years. So he had to, surmount thumb pain, but he did.
We were very lucky too, because a lot of the initial rehearsals that we had on some of the earlier pieces, we went down to Terry's ranch. And that was a great place to kind of get into the mood of seeing where he wrote the pieces and, seeing where he lives. And it really helped to, I think, influence the interpretations and kind of the imagination within the pieces too.
And together you've created this great body of quartet literature that is just going to be forever. And he's written some new pieces for this festival in June?
Yeah. He's we just did a song that he wrote the other night, and there'll be a couple of surprises at the festival. And, yeah.
Which is the most difficult piece on the program that you just performed for us tonight?
Good Medicine.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is it the most difficult?
What?
Sonny, why? Tell us. Sonny's the newest one to this.
Because everything has to fit in perfectly like this. It's almost like a puzzle. You put everything together. And it's kind of a thing, if you don't start the beginning with the right kind of groove, you won't get it. You have to start out right with the same kind of everyone feeling the same pulse.
What is this time signature? Oh, sorry.
His time signature is in 5, which is for us a little lopsided, but it's easy to get used to. But then there are certain times you just want to count in 4.
Yeah, and there are no downbeats, so we are just trusting each other that there will be a downbeat at the same place. Yeah.
An imaginary downbeat.
In fact, there's one specific place where David has the downbeat with me every other bar. And the bar that he doesn't, I still can't get used to it that he doesn't have that downbeat. It's a very subtle little thing. It's always changing from bar to bar subtly. And little things like that, it's like it took me a while to realize he doesn't have that downbeat.
So for us, we felt like if we can start a concert with that piece, we can definitely end a concert with that piece. Because, what happens during a concert is usually you gain confidence and and the audience gets with you and all this, and you don't have to kind of crack the ice by the end of the concert. And so we weren't using you as guinea pigs, but we sort of wanted to see if we could do it. That's the thing.
You were wearing earphones. Is that for a click track?
We're wearing earphones in Terry's piece. What I like is to have each member of the group very presently in my ear, and I can change the balance. And so, for example, it depends on the music we're playing, but for that piece, I need lots of Sunny's part, and so she's cranked up to 8, and I'm down to 0, and John is about 4, and Hank's about 5, or something like that. That's the way I balance that, and everybody probably does it differently.
Let's talk about Nicole's piece. You said the
Kosmisha.
And it's East German.
Yeah, there was
pop
a
music.
form of East German pop music that I'm sure everybody's heard it in one way or another. It's really, you hear it if you go to the eastern part of Germany, you will hear it in elevators and stuff sometimes, and it's kind of spacey music.
And so you each have one of these devices, and tell us what they are, because some of them we could see clearly, like when you held it up, and some of them we couldn't. So
mine is a Thingamagoop number 2, and I love to play the Thingamagoop number 2.
And what are you doing? You bring it down, and then you bring the little thing up.
Well, there's a certain amount of theatrics involved, but and I'm using the bow, or the little appendage, and it's a little light sensor that alters the speed and the frequency of the sound as it gets closer to the...
So what are these? Because I think before I heard you play this, and someone said something about old Atari systems or something, or am I thinking about something else?
Well, there's another piece of Nicole's that has various games and stuff. Oh, okay. So it depends what piece you're talking about. And as a matter of fact, I have a conversation with her tomorrow. She's going to be writing a piece for Kronos and orchestra. And I've just thought, I've had this kind of vision. Wouldn't it be unbelievable to have every member of an orchestra do something totally weird like what we just did? And just what would happen, And who should do it but Nicole?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But, yeah.
I just want to say I think Nicole's great because she has this interesting sense of sound, what she wants to... she finds all these incredible electronic instruments. Sunny and I get to play these 2 instruments that are one's called a stylophone, and one's called an omnichord. And the stylophone is basically an electric keyboard that you use a stylus to play. And it was, I think, invented in the 60s. And then the omnichord is this, I think it's kind of like an electronic zither, but it has, you can press chords and then you play with your hand, you roll it across this metal plate to play the chords. And you can play all kinds of chords, seventh chords, major or minor. But that's hard to play. It really is, because you have to, especially to be in time and to push the right button at the right time.
The thingamagoop is much more difficult to play.
She's very innovative, obviously, with all of the things that she does. But yet, there's this nostalgia that I hear in the piece, and I think my instrument that I play is an old-fashioned portable record player. Very old-fashioned. And in fact, I had one. I had one of those in the 1970s. So I'm happy to have it again.
What is the record here that you're using?
It's the Tubular Bells CD.
But it's all scratched up from so. It's
more
something
vintage every time
it's
we play.
something different than that at this point.
It's very unsettling though, the string techniques, because there's this big wobbly vibrato, and it's sort of why is it so kind of viscerally disturbing?
I think that's part of Nicole's interpretation of Kosmische music and the, kind of this space age that's gone wrong or something like that.
Sahba, let's bring you into the conversation and talk about your piece. It was so great to hear it also with the film tonight. This was the local premiere of the film?
It was premiered before, actually, in Irvine, I think about a month ago. But this was the first SF Bay Area premiere of this was the first projection, yeah.
Tell us about working with Kronos, the process from the beginning, what guidelines you had for the new piece, and how it all happened.
Okay, so we first met back in 2009. I met David, and so I sent them. I sent them my first string quartet. I actually handed them my first string quartet. To John, actually, back when I was a student at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music.
Bring your microphone a little closer.
Oh yeah, okay. And I didn't get a response. But later on, I sent my second string quartet, which I wrote back in 2009, and was a depiction of post-presidential elections in all the unrest and the riots in Iran. And I was there at the time. I was so inspired. I wanted to write a piece about it. I sent that to Kronos' office, and David called me the next day, and we met in a cafe. We talked about the possibility of a new piece. And the great thing about working with Kronos is they just create basically a playground for you, with all the toys and everything. And David gave me a bunch of CDs then, and they were doing this 3-night concert back in Z Space. And I attended all 3 of them, and so I was a big fan of Kronos before, but I got used to the sound and how I should kind of write for him. And the thing, from that moment on, every collaboration we had, it basically is just about what I want to write, what I really need to write. If that's a better way to say it. So I come up with the idea. I just show it to David, and mostly they would approve of it, But it's just a matter of, as I said, I think that's the best way of describing it: a playground for adults, for musicians, just to experiment.
There was this amazing moment when we were in Howard's Cafe, and you showed me those pictures of the rugs being made, and then you explained this. Really, it's an ancient tradition of music. It's like music notation, right?
Exactly.
There's someone that's chanting the score, and the score becomes the pattern that's on the rug. And I just found this so beautiful and fascinating.
So,
Exactly.
I came across these sounds. Basically, my family I come from a rock-viewer family. My grandma. Actually, the woman singing in the last movement is my grandma. So she told me about all these songs and all these voices in a carpet weaving factory, and I actually went to Iran, went specifically to Kashan and Isfahan to just record some songs, and I was under the impression that this is going to be like just a bunch of like love songs or so, and I came across this amazing collection of sounds in these factories, both the weaving, the combing, and also the singing part, which one part of it is just the love songs, that's kind of just regular songs. But the other part is Naqsh Khani, which means basically reading the pattern, So the way it works is basically two people would be sitting on two sides of the carpet, and it's symmetrical, so they would be weaving the exact same pattern, as it goes towards the center. And one person would be singing the pattern while, weaving it, and the other person would just follow the pattern that way, But after a while, after thousands of years, these actually become like an actual song, So it's poetic, the word and everything, And at the same time, it has some sort of 7/8 rhythm, So I recorded a lot of those songs, brought them back here to San Francisco, showed them to David, and David was about impressed with them, So I went to Iran again and started, recording a lot of, weaving songs, combing songs again. And then that was the time, that I actually came up with the idea that the quartet members would act as if they're weaving, weaving a carpet, And the person who was actually shown in the film as well, he's a very prominent designer, carpet designer in Isfahan, and he told me this. He was very interesting. A very interesting person. First of all, he would consider this thing that he was doing very sacred. He would design, and then they would draw the patterns, and then he had his own factories to weave that pattern. And one pattern would be for every person. So if you go to him, he would design a carpet for you. And the way he does it, he was of course a very religious person, and he would actually do the washing ritual, just like the Muslims do it before prayers. He would do it before designing a carpet. It was so sacred to him. And he was always talking about all these repetitions and patterns being repeated and repeated again. I was so interested about I was so into those patterns and knowing what they represent, each of them on a carpet. And he would explain. I didn't know that they were so ancient, but coming from Mithraism actually. All these patterns, like the sun and everything, which is an ancient religion back in India. So he accompanied me for 2 days, and I just recorded a bunch of sounds, and it was an amazing experience.
In the second movement, it's so interesting to see the film because you're evoking in the music the very active rhythmic movements of the women in the weaving the carpets, which we wouldn't know about. Those of us unfamiliar with that process, we would hear it in the music, but not recognize it from what it actually is.
Yeah, exactly.
Illustrating.
The interesting point about that movement is I lay out the tape first. I figured that there is a 7/8 meter inside that weaving rhythm, and then I just emphasized that. I just looped that and emphasized and added other elements to it. So there is an actual rhythm underneath, and when they get tired, they change the meter, which is very amazing.
So do we.
Not with that 7/8.
How important, David, is it to work with composers, with new pieces? Is it possible to get a score and learn it and be perfect without working with a composer?
I think working with composers is absolutely central to what Kronos does. And in those instances where we haven't been able to, because of distance or any number of other things, there are very few times we have not worked with a composer on a new piece that they've written. But if that should happen, we would figure out a way to do it. It would either be by Skype or by phone or something. There would be direct contact. And for me, it's one of the most wonderful things about being a musician is to get information, just like what Sahba was just saying right now. That kind of thing. How are we ever going to learn anything about other cultures, other forms of music, other instruments? Composers are some of the most interesting people on the planet, I think, and we're very fortunate that those people that write for us 99% of the time have been at our rehearsals. Yeah.
We have time for a few questions from the audience. Who has a question?
So yeah, if anyone has a question, I'll come to you.
So this is, I guess, a two-part or maybe a three-part question, but for young people who attend conservatory, do conservatories today teach young musicians how to play contemporary music like you played tonight? And should they be teaching young musicians how to play that, and do they do it well?
Well, between when Kronos started in 1973 and today, the change has been enormous in terms of what's possible, what's available, what's possible for us to do, and then what's available for students to do. In a lot of cases, the conservatories have not kept up with the kinds of things that can be done, must be done, have to be done. But we're also very fortunate that we get to, we're continually working with younger musicians. In fact, in New York, we're working with a group called Face the Music. And this is, Face the Music is made up of junior high and high school kids. And many of the pieces they are playing were written for Kronos. And it's fascinating to be able to share some of our music with the next that generation. And then recently, just this week, we were at the San Francisco Conservatory working with students. But having said everything I've said, there's a lot of resistance to the kind of music that we play being useful for a young person to learn how to do in order to become a symphony player or a soloist or whatever. And we've decided that there's a way around this roadblock. And so what we've done and what we're starting, as a matter of fact, this year, is called 50 for the Future. You may have heard about this. And so we're asking every year, there'll be 5 women, 5 men composers for the next 5 years. So in 5 years, we'll end up with 50 new pieces. And the idea is that if we choose the composers correctly, we're going to end up with 5 books of 10 pieces that will give emerging quartets, young players, the opportunity to learn how to do what we do. And this music is going to be available, downloadable, free of charge on the internet. We're going to make recordings of each of the pieces. There will be videotaped rehearsals. The conversation that Sahba just had, that kind of background information will be available on every one of these 50 pieces. And the idea is that there will be many different cultures represented, styles of music, techniques. So we're quite inspired by the possibilities for the future. And there's lots to do, lots of work to do.
I just wanted to thank you for being here, and I'm amazed that we're here in this tiny little room seeing you play. So thank you, whoever made this happen. My question was, you originated the Salome piece with Terry Riley in, I don't know, the 80s?
Yeah, I think it was written in 1985. Yeah.
So how do you come back to a piece like that now and revisit it, and what do you do in order to make it something maybe new as you play it this time?
Well, first of all, there's no problem in making a piece like Salome feel new. It's a 2-hour and 20-minute quartet piece. Basically, it's made up of 5 quartets. And on the 28th of June, we're going to do the entire piece. That will end our Riley Festival. And we haven't done this for about 20-some years. And so we really are revisiting it. And as a matter of fact, tomorrow morning, my grandson's kindergarten class is coming to our rehearsal, and we're going to be rehearsing some of Salome for the kindergarten class. And so we're directly involved in reimagining Salome at this point, having not done it for a long time. So it's thrilling. To me, it's just one of the really major pieces of the 20th century.
I think also in any music that you revisit, you bring hopefully a different perspective because you've moved on. You were in a certain place when you played it first, and then of course you're hopefully in a better place, and you may have different ideas or more ideas to play things differently. Plus, we have Sunny, who's only been with us 2 years, and this is going to be her first time playing, so I'm sure she's going to have other ideas about how to play it, which will be very exciting.
Hopefully.
We did something tonight, we found something in the sound check, and I was really happy with that decrescendo that we did.
Yes.
Yeah, we tried something that we hadn't tried, and
It was to let the viola out.
yeah, that's right. We just thought Hank needed a little more room to expand, so.
Although he has been saying that for...
Yeah, we finally did it the way he wanted it after 25 years or whatever.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks.
It's our pleasure.
Thank you, Sarah.